Good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of FightbackMedia.com, 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 and FightbackMediaTV.com. We are super happy that you are here today, here on YouTube and on Spreaker and wherever else you're hearing this. If you're hearing it on audio form, please let us know. Send us an email at fightbackmedia@gmail.com, fightbackmedia@gmail.com, fightbackmedia@gmail.com. We've got a lot to talk about today. Let's first talk about this. There's been this ongoing war that you've seen between presidential candidate. Told you today. I warned you today. Presidential candidate Ron DeSantis and Walt Disney Corporation. And Disney had come out last week and said, because of the current business climate in Florida, they are not going to open one of the centers that they were planning on opening. Well, the fact of the matter is they're not opening one of these centers because they have been on cost-cutting measures for a while, because what's happening is they are losing money. It is amazing that a company like Disney can actually lose money, but they don't like to lose money, and they don't like to not pay their stockholders what they promised to pay them. And because of the increases in salaries, that they are self-imposed on themselves. And that's what self-imposed means. Yeah, on themselves. Disney is struggling. As a matter of fact, and if you don't believe that, let me get an article from you. And this article is from, it's not from Town Hall. It's not from some conservative. I'm trying to, my monitors are still kind of messed up. I'm trying to get this over to so I can read. It's from actually from MSN, from a website called Giant Freaking Robot. Cost cutting seems to be the name of the game these days, and according to Deadline, Disney's third wave of planned layoffs is well underway, with around 7,000 employees, or 3% of Disney's total workforce, on the chopping block. Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed back in March that these cost-cutting measures, among others, will save the company roughly $5.5 billion. The first round of Disney layoffs occurred back in March, on March 27th, and the involved cuts in the Metaverse Strategies unit, as well as part of their Beijing office. We saw the second and the most significant wave of layoffs just a month later, which impacted several divisions across the company, including Disney Entertainment, ESPN, and Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products. Fortunately for the hourly workers at the Disney Parks and Resorts, they will not likely experience any layoffs, because they are considered to be valuable frontline operational employees, and they are absolutely vital to keeping that part of the Disney machine running smoothly. So you are probably not going, if you visit Disney, you're probably not going to see that they're having any less employees than they normally do. They're having the same staffing issues as everybody else, all the other parks. Just getting people to freaking come to work, or work at all, or work when they're there. Disney hasn't only been reducing their workforce as a cost-cutting measure. However, it has recently announced that dozens of titles will be removed from Disney Plus, including Willow, Black Beauty, Just Beyond, and The Mighty Ducks, Game Changers. But as upsetting as it is to lose access to your favorite show on streaming, we'd argue that losing your livelihood is a much worse scenario. So if we take all this information that we get at face value, I guess there's some hope that Disney will emerge from the downsizing, which is a critical step in securing its legacy for years and hopefully for decades to come, it says in the article. So when they're saying they're not going to open this new place, and you're hearing this, their new place that was going to employ 1,000 people, it's because they were never going to open it. They're firing people across their company. They were never going to open it, ever. So when you hear that DeSantis is losing to Trump, when you hear Carrie Lake say that there's no way that DeSantis can't beat Donald Duck, how is he going to beat Donald Trump? Which I guess is kind of clever. The fact of the matter is, Kerry, that Ron DeSantis is kicking Donald Duck's ass. That's what's actually happening. All right, so the governor announced his bid for presidency today. We told you that would happen. It was going to be on Spaces on Twitter, and apparently there was a technical nightmare. And the problem is technical, and the problem is that everybody knew it. Spaces had never done anything that quite that big. Of course, and all the always Trumpers and the like, and all the people who hate Ron DeSantis were going to be on and end up crashing the damn thing. So, but because I told you, because I already told you, if you're watching or you're listening, that Ron DeSantis threw his hat into the ring just a day or 2 days after Tim Scott did. And so there is former President Donald Trump, Governor Ron DeSantis, Senator Tim Scott, former Ambassador Nikki Haley, Vivek, I can't remember that dude's name, who's also a business person, and a few others, I think. We are waiting to see if Glenn Youngkin is in or he's out or what the heck's going on. We're waiting to see if former Vice President Pence is in or out now that DeSantis is in. We don't know. What I'd like to see is that we have a good discussion, a good, maybe rancorous discussion about policy, not about personality. Not about personality. Not by, oh, this guy's boring. Because we heard that crap when certain Republicans were dismissing the smartest guy in the room, Ben Carson. Probably the most moral guy in the room, too, Ben Carson. That he was boring. Who is he supposed to entertain? Whose imagination is he supposed to capture? When you have the guy who's bright enough to separate conjoined twins, who is bright enough to operate on children in utero, but somehow he was too boring to be your president. He was too lifeless to be your president. He'd been the smartest president, been the most intelligent president that you ever had. He'd have been one of the most moral people to be in the White House that's ever been in the White House. But because you are so dang on wrapped up in personality and being entertained, we missed a tremendous opportunity. Why? Because he's boring. So what? I'm not here to entertain your ass. So if we could just avoid personality and listen to ideas, like we like to say, conservatives are all about ideas, and that leftists, that progressives are all about feelings. Don't know how true that is. I just don't know how. I hear that, but not what I see. Especially what I've seen since 2015. And I said this on the Porch Talk radio program. Miss my friend Eddie Adams Jr. He passed away last year. And I remember mentioning on that show, and I mentioned it on my own show, that what I'm seeing in Trump and Trump supporters was this hero worship, the very same kind of hero worship that I saw with Barack Obama. Very same vibe. Very same vibe. You just weren't going to listen to anybody else. You just weren't going to. I believe that's a problem. Now, if it ends up being the case that the Republican nominee is Donald J. Trump, and the Democrats pull up Joe Biden, it's Trump all day long. Let's not be stupid about it. Let's not be dumb. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. There may be, and I know it's hard for you, some of you to consider, there may be another choice. And it may not be Ron DeSantis, it may be Nikki Haley, it may be Tim Scott, it may be Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that's what his name is. Yeah. It could be somebody else. It could be Mike Pence. Who knows? Because we're not there yet. And everybody who's watched me or listened to me knows that I'm kind of a first things first kind of dude. Let's do this first. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's take these cars out for test drives. As people visit where you are, go to rallies, go to meetings. Try to be somewhere where possibly you can even ask a question. Or listen to other people ask questions and tuck in your little memory banks what the answers were. See if they make sense. Do some research on your own. You're watching this on the internet, so you could probably do a little research on your own. Find out if what they're saying is true. Do something. Don't just go with the crowd. Don't just dig up your Make America Great hat and just sit pat. We're good. Looking forward to that $1.99 gas price. Do some research. Demand that there be more talk about policy. Demand it. Demand it from all the candidates. Demand that when asked a question that they stay on point. Already, Ron DeSantis asked a question about what's going on in Ukraine, and it took him an entire answer to get around to saying no, he doesn't think that troops should be involved there, not at all. Well, that's pretty easy. That's pretty softball. No, nobody on the right should believe that there should be troops, American troops, involved in that conflict. The bigger question, should there be funding? Should this be an American proxy war with the Soviet Union? What's our part in it? That's the question. And that's a question they're all going to have to answer. For me, that's a question that they're all going to have to answer for real, including Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. And Trump's not going to be able to say, well, if I was president like I should have been in 2020, if the election had been stolen, we wouldn't even have this problem. Quite possibly, sir. But now that we do, should we continue to fund Ukraine? Because that's how that's going to go. Should we continue to fund the Ukraine? Should we continue to send arms to the Ukraine, to the Ukrainian military? To what is it going to take for us to go, okay, this is on y'all? What's it going to take for Americans to say, Europe, they're your problem. You're going to have to take care of it. Good luck. How long is that going to take? Is Europe going to be able to do it? That's the questions that have to be asked. How are we going to rejuvenate the oil industry in America? At the same time, while bringing on the renewable industry. The renewable industry, as most of us know, is simply not ready for prime time. We know they're not ready for prime time. We're going to have to bring them along. Bring them along. EVs are here to stay. How are we going to build that infrastructure? Is there some part for the federal government in helping to build that infrastructure, or is that going to be a completely private endeavor? I believe it should be a private endeavor, but the questions need to be asked. The questions should be asked. We have found, and we reported here, that Ron DeSantis is a fair tax dude. What's your plans, if you have any plans, on encouraging that a different tax system is instituted in the United States during your tenure as president, if you are so blessed to be elected president. Presidents don't write legislation, but they can have an influence. Now, there was a fair tax bill written for this year's Congress and in the last few years Congress. So there are people in Congress who are willing to write bills. How much lobbying is the presidential candidates willing to do on behalf of changing the tax system, which I'm telling you upsets every single apple cart in DC? Let's have a conversation about policy, not about that Ron DeSantis is being funded by a rich billionaire, blah, blah. That doesn't tell me about policy, because all I know is that same dude got a bridge built in less than a week after the hurricane. Nobody heard about that? That all they've heard about is Disney. All they've heard about is don't say gay. All they've heard about is a culture war. I think that he, like a lot of other Republican candidates, understand, even Donald Trump, understand that what Andrew Breitbart said is correct, that politics is downstream of the culture. And if you want politics to change, you're going to have to get involved in the culture war. And there is a culture war going on. You're going to have to get involved in it. There's no way to just say, well, that's a TikTok thing, it'll go away. It's the culture, and the culture ends up being part of your politics, and it ends up being part of policy. And people on the right have just been willing to watch that happen. And then you woke up one day and went, what the hell? That's what happened. You weren't willing to get into those skirmishes. You weren't willing to fight your kids on it. You weren't willing to fight your nieces and nephews on it. You weren't willing to fight your grandchildren on it, or your own children. And now you have DEI and ESG ruling the day, which aren't laws, except in certain places. It's culture. It's to change the culture. Let's see if we can have some of these discussions in a dispassionate, academic sense. I know you're saying good luck with that, Will. But if I don't ask, there's zero chance I'll get right. All right, we got to get out of here, make room for someone else. Thank you ever so much for coming to the Morning Report. Again, the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.